Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to another video. It's been a while. In this video, we are going to learn about drivers. So yeah, I'm super excited. I've had a lot of technical difficulties to get to this point, so hopefully things work out and it doesn't go south. So yeah, let's jump right into it. Cool. So here we are in a new 2D animation grease pencil Blender project. So the first thing we want to do is go ahead and in the layers. This the layers right here. We're going to get rid of all the layers, create a new layer, and we'll do head. So we'll just make a quick head. We'll create a circle. We'll drag it out like this. Push enter. Wow, that's a head. Congratulations. Next thing we want to do is nose. Create a new layer. Name it nose. Then on the nose section right there, what we want to do, I'm sorry, the head section, we'll lock it so we don't actually draw on it. We just want to draw on this top layer. Then we'll come in here to the materials. We'll add it, a new material, create a new material. We'll create a fill, make it white. Then come over here to draw, make sure the strength is all the way up with sensitivity turned off. You can do it how you like, but that's how I do it. We'll draw the first frame. We'll come down here to the timeline, arrow key over twice, draw the second frame, arrow key twice, draw the middle pose, arrow key twice. Let me make sure I do that right. 1, 2. The next pose, 1, 2. The final, 1, 2. And then the last one, which we're just gonna right click, we're gonna insert a keyframe. And that's just him fully turned around, or her, doesn't matter. So let me just kind of show you really quick what it looks like. So head turning, right? Looks cool. I guess the only problem is there's no beginning frame, so we will come down here to the timeline and edit it really quick. So we'll select all the keyframes. You can just drag across here or push A. We'll do G, 1, oops, and then we'll go over. I think we can just do 2. Yeah. So do G, do 1, 2. Alright, and we moved it 2 frames over. Select the last frame, Shift D, duplicate it, and do the first. Cool. So the first frame is 1, the last frame is 13. We'll modify it right here. So that's the end. Let's play. And this is what it looks like. A head turning. Pretty cool. But let's say you wanted to rig that up. So how we're going to do that is we come back to the first frame right here. We'll do object mode, and we'll do Shift A. So this is create a new object. Make sure you're in object mode. And then we're going to do single bone. So now we have a bone right here. Sounds exciting. But the reason we're using the bone is because we're going to use the bone to control when the nose is where it's at, like the position of the nose. So we kind of come back here to stroke. Let me just take off onion skinning really quick. So right now you can't see anything. But the problem is we can move the bone everywhere. We just want to move it left and right horizontally. So that, if you look up here, that is the x-axis. Anyways, you can push in to open up your transform right here. Since I have auto record on, you're going to see this yellow right here. We don't want to see that. So what we want to do is we'll right click and clear keyframes, because if we have this enabled, later on we'll have a problem when we're trying to add the driver, and you'll see what I'm talking about because I ran into this, and this is why it took me multiple hours to figure out a simple problem that was caused from a bug. So just thought I'd let you guys know that. Anyways, moving forward, what we want to do is add a constraint. Well, first thing we want to do actually is lock the Y and the Z. So that's an easy fix. So now when we try to move it, no matter where we move, it'll just be X and Y. Or I'm sorry, X. And so we want to add a bone constraint because we only want the bone to move in that certain position. So with the bone selected, we'll go into pose mode, and now all of a sudden you can add a bone constraint. So if you saw, there's an error that was right here. In my opinion, you can't add any modifications unless you're in pose mode. So cool. Now that we're in pose mode, we'll come down here to limit location. And what this will do will just, well, limit the location. So we'll hold shift and drag down to put everything, to lock everything. We're going to change this right here to local space. So it'll go back to its original position, because where it was sat was world space. So that means the X is relative to the world and not the X is relative to the object. And I guess if you don't know what that means, look up relative. No, but the idea is we want the X to be relevant to the object and not the whole world. We just care about the object, its position. Okay, cool. So what we want to do is on the X, we want to have a minimum value of 0. It's already set for us, and then we'll have a maximum value of 1. We'll probably change that later, but as you can see, if I drag, it'll only stay in a 0 or 1. Cool. So going back, the other thing that you want to notice, if you look at the top here, the transform keeps going. You see it's like going to like 20, then we go in the opposite direction, goes to negative. It should be 0 and 1. That should be the max. So what we're going to do is click effect transform. So now look, 1, 0, 1, 0. This matters. We care about this value. Once again, these yellow, we don't want the yellow. So we can clear those keyframes, or you can just unclick this and do it later, right? So I'll unclick it, and that should make sure that this is not recording. We'll also clear these keyframes too, and clear these too, just because it messes up our ability to add drivers. It won't let us, for some reason, add a driver whenever there's keyframes. Okay, so now that we have the constraint going, what we want to do is tie that to that time offset that we had. But first, what we want to do is add a property. And what a property is basically, it's like a billboard. It's like a digital billboard. We can create a digital billboard, and every car sees the digital billboard, and when we update this data, it updates and all the cars know the data. So this is really useful when you want to access. If you're familiar with programming, it reminds me of a global variable. If it's great when you want to use that same data across multiple instances, and it allows us to dynamically change things from just the properties menu. So we'll come over here to the custom properties. You can actually drag it up here if you want, but it doesn't really matter. So down here on the custom properties, we'll come down and we'll do new. And here's our property. We just created a custom property. Congratulations. So on it, we want to change the type from float to integer. I don't want to get you too overwhelmed in this because it can get kind of dense, but just know that a float is a decimal. Integer is a whole value. So it's a whole number, an integer, a float, a decimal. There's other things like string, but this is more programming stuff. So string is just like a word, characters, letters, stuff like that. Anyways, so the default value, we're going to change it to 0. The min value, we're actually going to do it 1, and the max, we're going to do 11. And the reason we're doing that is because when we come over here to object mode, we select the stroke. The first value is 1, and the last value is, it's 13. So what we're going to do is go back into here, and in the properties value, we'll do the max value. We'll change it to integer, max value 13. Min value, we're actually going to set it to 1 because we don't want it to go under 0. There's no frames drawn on 0 that I'm aware of. And the step, we're going to do 2 because we're drawing on 2s. So if you're drawing on 1s, you should have the step at 1. If you're drawing on 3s, you should have the step at 3. So we can also change the name. You can name it whatever you want, but just make sure it's a relevant name. So I'll do prop, and then we can do nose turn. I don't know how to spell nose. Prop. Cool. And we hit OK. And if you want, you can actually add a description too. This controls the value for the bone, controlling the nose drawings. Something like that. And we're just OK. So you can, I believe if you hovered over it, I don't know. Anyway, so the point is we need to add a driver. So what we need to do is right click and then add driver. We want to add it here because we need this. It turns purple whenever you add the driver. And it'll disappear, so we're going to open the driver's editor. Don't get freaked out. Don't get freaked out. So now that we have the driver's editor open, it's not that complicated. It's just like any other curve editor that you've seen before. You have the F curve, which you can modify the handles and stuff, and the drivers this is what we're going to spend most of our time into. So right here it says var, and what var is, all it is okay, this is gonna, drivers are actually kind of complicated. Give me a second. What we need to do is use the eyedropper tool to access the armature, and in the armature we want to get the bone because that's what we want. And right here you see this drop down, we are on transform channel because all we care about is the transform X position. That's all we care about in the transform panel right there. So we're going to use that value as the input, and that's what this var stands for. In fact, we can rename it to bone. We'll name it bone input. I don't suggest this like really long name. We'll update this right here. So we'll do bone input, right? And it gives us the outputted driver value. And you can do math up here because it is a scripted expression. So see, the original was 2.106, and we added 1, so then it became 3, and we just take it away, and so it's 2.1. So that's where the bone is at in current space. So right now we want to change this from world space to local space. That's also going to change the driver value because now we're going off not the world space but the local space. So if we come over here into pose mode with that bone selected, we can see that the value is 0, and we look right here, the value is 0. If we move it over here, we can see it actually go up the graph. So at the full extent it's 1 because we remember, if you remember at the beginning of the video, we added a bone constraint and the max value is 1. So you can come over here, the transform is 1, this is 1.0, the output value is here, and since we're in, like I said, the type of driver, a scripted expression, we can of course do cool operations like multiply it times 2, so 1 times 2 is 2, so the bone's value is 1. The input, the bone input value, so it's coming from the bone's X location in its local space, is 1. So kind of just process that really quick. And now, since we're using scripted expressions, we can manipulate that just like in algebra. We can take it and do whatever we want. It's really important for you to understand because it can get a little confusing. So just kind of take your time with this, play around with it until you get comfortable, because I'm not going to lie, I got confused myself. So with that being said, we'll leave it as it is right now because we still need to wire some things up around here, okay? And we want to, every time we do something, hit update dependencies. It may do nothing, but sometimes everything's messed up, and what that does is it updates everything in the program and lets it know like, hey, like something has changed, so it fixes some bugs that you might run into. So I'm sorry, the min value, we want to set that bad boy to 0. The default value, we want to set it to 0. So yeah, we can actually see, since it increments at least by 2, we can see right here that the property value, or not the property, the value is updating right here on the bottom from 0 to 1, and that's fine because we're just taking it for what it is. We're about to do a lot of math to it and be really excited for that. So we need to wire these up. Okay, so what we need to do is come back into object mode, select our stroke, which is right here, and then inside the stroke we want to come into a modifier. So we want to add a modifier, time offset. And what this time offset modifier does is it allows us to mess with all of these keyframes right here. So this is really awesome. When we come back over here, we want to select the stroke right here. We'll select the stroke, and then in the drivers editor, we want to open in the frame offset right here, and we want to switch this transform channel to a single property. And what we want to do is, let me exit this so I can show you firsthand. We'll select the property, the armature, and then this path will be empty. It needs a path to that driver. So we'll come over here really quick, select the armature. This is the property that's attached. Right click, we'll do copy data path. Oh, sorry. So we'll exit out of that, make sure it's on properties, inside the properties, then we'll just name this var. So we'll do that to var, and then we'll do var. All right, cool. So now we'll go back into our post mode with our bone, and everything should be linked up. Yeah, so when we drag it across, it is copying over that data path, and we now have a somewhat functioning rig. So on the driver value of 0, there's some errors. So let's kind of troubleshoot here. So right here, take me back here. So on 1, which is, this is where this is, frame offset, it says it's going to be on 0. We can switch this to fixed frame, see if this does anything. Let me see, regular, custom range, 1, and we'll do 13. And we can change the layer to just, okay, cool. So it looks like it works now that I made that modification. So like I said, a lot of this is just playing around. So we'll come over here, like I said, get the time offset. We'll do frame offset. Everything we keep the same. We'll do a custom range 1 through 13, and then we'll do the influence. We only want it on the nose layer, so we'll do the nose so it doesn't accidentally affect other potential layers that we would have. Hey guys, real quick, Future Zach here. If you don't want it to loop forever, because once you get past a set amount of frames, it'll just keep looping. You can turn off keep loop, or you can do fixed frame, and that's what I would do. Just do fixed frame to only have the drawings controlled by the rig, and yeah, that's it. So everything else the same. Make sure the influence is at nose passes 0, and keep it on fixed frame. Yeah. Then we'll select the bone again. We'll go into pose mode. So right now, look, the nose is not there. This is the center position. This is, turned around that way. And then, as you can see, there's a problem here. It won't go all the way over. So we can modify this a little bit. The quick way to do it, and the way that I'm going to do it, is 1.1. We're just messing with the bone constraints modifier, which will allow it to go a little bit further. Let's actually take away the maximum and see. So we'll just kind of eyeball it here. So right when it disappears, we will control C, and then the maximum will control V, hit enter. So now we modified the min max a little bit. It's probably not the best way to do it, but this helped me. And now we have a working nose rig, right? So you can also, of course, do the same method with eyes, the hair, the glasses, whatever you want to do, the Zach, and that'll do the same thing. So just to kind of recap what we did, we drew the head, we then created the nose, and then we drew each frame of the nose, which was about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 frames. Then we went ahead and then we created an armature. We locked the X and Y position. We locked the Y and Z position. We went in, we added a bone constraint. We limited the location from 0 to later 1.21 meters. We make sure we clicked effect transform. Then we added the owner to be local space. After we did that, we went ahead and gave the bone a property. We named it nose turn property. We made it an integer. We gave the min max of 0 and 13, which is about somewhere in the range of the frames that we're going to mess with. We gave it a step value of 1 to 2, just kind of play around with it. Default value, which was 0, which was the first value. And then once we did that, you could do 0, 1, by the way. Once we did that, we went ahead and came back to the stroke. We added a time offset modifier. we gave the time offset modifier a driver. We changed the type from transform channel to single properties. We of course then linked the property value to the armature. Then we copied the path from the armature's property driver. We pasted it, which would link the data. Then after we did that, we updated the dependencies, and then we tweaked and modified the final bone in post mode, and then we had a working head. So that should have been everything. Okay, future me again. If you need access to this, I made it available in the Discord, so go ahead and join it. It's free. It's going to be in one of the channels, so the Blender file, you can look at it and look at all the drivers yourself. See ya. I really hope this video was helpful and informative to you. Subscribe if you haven't already. Join the Discord, like, comment, subscribe, like I said, and I will see you all in the next video. You all have a great rest of your day, and yeah, I'll see ya.